Okay, so week 8. This week we'll be covering the authentication, form validation, and recommend using the Gmail SMTP. Should work on your local host. Your external site, the 00 web host, has issues with SMTP going out. So for this week's homework, just get it to work locally is fine. And what I'll have you do is once you get it to work locally on your system, um, you won't be able to submit a URL, but you can go ahead and submit to me um, your finished code for week 8. And so let me show you real quick what I'll be looking for. Inside your HT docs, um, your week 8 folder should have a validate and a PHP folder when you're finished. Those are the two. You can just submit to me, compress week 8 to a zip file and send that to me in week 8. It will be fine. Okay. The other thing I want to mention while we're talking about your web host not working with this, there is a free DNS client called Free DNS that you can use to access your home server from anywhere. And it's this freedns.afraid.org. What you do is basically if you have XAMPP working on your house computer somewhere and you wanted to host it to where you could access that link from outside of your house to host your own web server, this is a really easy free way to do it. So if you have Comcast or AT&T DSL, you can do this fairly easily. You just go to freedns.afraid.org and you register for dynamic DNS and go ahead and set up your account. I'll go ahead and log in with mine that I've already set up at home. And once you log in, you'll notice on mine I have that web290.us.20. Here's my local IP address at home. You basically just click the add button. When you click the add button, it's going to take you to a selection of a domain you want to select. I chose for our class, us.w220, and then typed in web290 up here in the subdomain. Hit save. It automatically recognizes your client IP address. And then so once you save that and set it up, you can come to your server from outside of your house. Now, one of the things you're going to have to do prior to this is your Linksys router is going to have to be set up on a DMZ port. So the computer that you're hosting your web host on, your web server, will need to be on a DMZ port. And you can look at the documentation on there, but I'll go ahead and show you real quick how to do it. I'll just Linksys DMZ. There's actually inside of your setting, let me see if I can log into my server at home, and probably easier to show it to you that way. Okay, so I've logged into my Linksys router at home. It's on the application and gaming DMZ section. I have to enable DMZ. Source IP is any IP address coming from outside in, and then grab my MAC address from the computer on my web server's on. There's actually a DHC. And then from that point on, once you save the settings, people can browse to the new website, which in my case was the web290.us.20, which is basically the Web290 class website. And so again, to recap on this, once you get the DMZ set up on your Linksys router, pointing to your Mac or PC that you've set up XAMPP on, you just create a new account in freedns.afraid.org. It'll automatically put in the IP address of the current system that you're on. You add a subdomain, maybe your first initial last name, choose a domain, and then just hit save. And then you'll be able to browse your computer from outside of your house. So again, it's not a requirement, but something that definitely recommend doing for test purposes. So this week, there's two file downloads. One is localhost SMTP and Gmail SMTP. Now, the one I recommend using for local is this Gmail SMTP. And once you download this zip file, it'll have two folders in it, a PHP mail and a validate. You'll need to configure your Gmail by clicking on this link here. It walks you through how to do that to open up for SMTP to be used on Gmail. Then you go to the PHP mail folder and you're going to edit the mail.php file and put in your credentials for your username and password on Gmail. Then you're going to add two new fields to be validated in index.php. In this example, I added favorite color and phone number validation. This screen here just goes over the code on the front end for validation. And then the validated.php is what the redirect is. And let's go ahead and look at the live example. So I'll go ahead and put in first and last name, test for subject, email. The website has to have a full address, http://. And once you hit submit, it's going to take the contents of your form, send it to the email that you typed in. So I'll go ahead and type in Gmail so you can see where how it sends it to your email account. Okay, here's the test I just sent. Hello, your contact form has been submitted by Check Chronicle. There's the email address, web address. So this is what it's going to look like on your end once it's sent successfully. So let's go look at the code real quick on this. Go back out of this and look right into the code base for this. Again, two folders. We'll go into the validate first, which is the index. And I want to cover the three files, be validate, index, and thanks. First, we'll go over those. Then the last file we'll go over is in a PHP mail, which okay. So let's go ahead and start with the index, which is the home page. That's what the user sees when they go to the validate folder. So name, test, or subject, email, website. Do they like the website? Yes or no, not sure. How to find us, and text box and submit. The required fields are your name, subject, email. and your comments. If I leave comments out and try to submit this, it's going to say I need to enter comments. Leave any one of the fields out that are bolded. So leave out test, try to submit it, enters test. So you have validation this week, combination of validation and email both, which is used a lot in PHP. So let's go and look at the code first for the index.php. It's a simple form. We're doing an action validate post action form, going to the validate.php. We've got some input text boxes, your name, subject, email, website, and then do you like the website as radio buttons? On radio buttons in HTML, you just have to name all three of them the same, like it here, and then the values are different, and that's where they get the drop downs or the different selection on radio buttons. You can only select one at a time. The next is a drop down for Google, or how do you find us? How do you find us is a select area, a select drop down. You have to name it, and just named it how on this one. The default value is null, and it says please select. So if I refresh this page here, the first default is please select, which is right there, the default value. Then we have the Google, Yahoo, link from website, word of mouth, and other. Comments uses a text area. In a text area, the name for this one is comments, and then a submit button. Okay, so pretty simple form using radio button, drop down list, and a text area. Then it goes to the validate form. The validate form has an include statement, which includes the email.php that we'll go to in just a second. Session start is to store variables for sessions as it's being loaded. Lines 4 through 11 bring in all the fields from the index.php. Your name, subject, email, website, like it, how, and comments. The first one it tests is the email. If email is not valid, it uses this preg match like we did from last week, going over matching input and validating input. This preg match validates that it is a valid email, has letters, numbers, @ symbol, dot operator. So if it's not a valid email, it's going to say email address not valid. So if I go back to my form here and type in an invalid email, email address not valid, it's actually catching it right here. Okay. Next is website. Website validations for this one here. Just has to start with an HTTP or HTTPS : 2 backslashes, and then the rest of it has to be a normal website. Name, dot, operator, and 2 or more extensions on the end for the domain. So if that's not valid, it's going to kick back not a valid website. So on this one here, if I just maybe drop off the .com, put a valid in the email, now it's going to kick back here that it's not a valid email. I'll leave out one of these. I'll just put google.com, be easier. Oh, I'll take it back. On this form, I don't require the website to be valid. It's not bolded, so I didn't require it to be valid. Okay. So next, it's going to check that the validation, notice here, it's calling a function for all these called check input. If we go to check input function, it's going to pull in the data that we inputted from the form And if that data is empty, it's going to kick back telling us to correct it. So, for instance, if I didn't validate this one, the website, it's going to let me go through, but say I leave out, I don't know, the test. Let's do that. That one's going to actually be tested now to kick back. So on this one here, for validation, I've got check input for, the only validation actually I have on this form is your name, subject, email, and comments. To make a website, to validate that it's got content in it, all I would need to do is add in a comma and enter website, save it, and then that would allow me to validate the website just by doing that. If it doesn't have the second argument, it's not going to validate. Okay. So going on down, after it validates all the fields, it goes now into the message for the email. Hello, your contact form has been submitted by. It's plugged into a variable called message. Name your name from the form below or above that just came from index. Email, website, like it, show find, how find, and comments. You have to put the from address. In my case, it's cconkle@gmail. And then your first, last name. What it's doing here is it's actually bringing in the variables from this include statement, email.php, that we'll look at in just a second. So mail is pointed to set from whatever email address you have, and then first initial last name. The body variable is using the message here. Subject is whatever subject put in this one, which for this one here, the subject is what they typed in the actual form for subject. Will show up as a subject on the actual email. Then the alt body, this one here is view the message, please use HTML compatible viewer. And then MSG HTML converts the body into an HTML email. The add address adds the user's email and your email. Then it does a send mail. If it errors out, it gives what the error is. Here at Rock Valley, it errors out because they blocked port 25 and any send mail. But at home, you should be okay if you're doing this from home on your computer using the SMTP Gmail. Then if it's successful, it bypasses a mail send and it sends successfully. It's going to relocate to the thanks.html and then exit. Okay, so let's go ahead now and look at the email.php. This one, the only thing you're going to have to do is modify is add in your full email, username @gmail.com, full password, and that's it. Save it. When you set up your Gmail account or modified it, which I have you do, and this link here, configuring Gmail POP setting to use SMTP. Make sure and follow those directions. You log into Gmail, enable POP for all mail, enable IMAP, and then save your changes. Make sure you do that before you go further. Otherwise, it will not work by using Gmail, or to use Gmail's SMTP. It won't work unless you do set up that forwarding POP. Okay. Next, you're going to add additional fields that you want validated. So, for example, the challenge I give you is to have 2 additional fields that need validated. So maybe in this example, I get phone number and favorite color. So just to show you how simple this is, let's go ahead and I'm going to highlight the subject field and copy it twice. And I'm going to put in here, instead of subject, I'm going to put in here, we'll do fave food, and I'll name this one food. This one here we'll do phone, and I'll name this one phone. Both text fields is fine. Save it. Now if I look at this local copy here, there's the fave food and phone that I just added. You would definitely have the formatting a little bit better in mine here. I'm just trying to quickly show you how to do this. So on the validate side, I added what? Phone and food. It's 2 new fields. Up here at the top, all I need to do is I want to bring in or add in 2 new validations. In fact, let me copy the email, it'll be easier. This I'm going to do phone, and the post coming in is phone, and I'm going to put enter phone. And then for email, I'm going to replace this one with food, food, and then enter food, fave food. Save it. And let's test this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and put in name, subject. I'm going to leave out fave food and submit. It says enter email. I'll put a comment there. There you go. Enter phone. Phone. Click phone. Now I'll try. It should catch now the fave food. There we go. Now I'm getting an error on mine because I'm running it from the college here. So validation's working out with the 2 new fields. I added fave food and phone. And now the way that they're validating as far as the order validation is going to fall in this realm. So your name, subject, email, phone, food, and website is not going to be validated except for format. It's going to be validated. So if I leave out the website altogether, that's going to be not valid website because of this preg match right here for the website. The URL is not valid, set website to empty. And so this one here, I put an error. If it does not match, it's going to show an error, meaning it's not a valid website. It's going to show an error. If I wanted to leave this out for comment wise, I could just move, or just to make sure it has something in it, I'm going to move a comment there on the end and save this. That way if I wanted to leave a website out, I could. There we go. So now the website's actually left out of validation altogether. because there's two types of validation for a website. One is initially that it's a valid URL, and that one's going to be actually checked first, or this would be checked first, that it has content, which right now it doesn't check it as content, because remember I said two arguments on the check input. One is the actual post and the error message. Because if you look in the check input, it needs both. It needs the post and the problem. By default, the problem is going to be empty quotes. And so notice on this one, if there's a problem and the string length of the data is equal to 0, then it's going to show error. So if there's problem and the string length of data is equal to error, it's going to show the error, which error is basically just telling them what to input. Please correct the following, and then putting in that data. In this case would be the my error with a nice backspace. Because if I type in here, for instance, leave the phone out, submit, notice this go back button is in here. It says please enter the following, correct the following error, enter phone to go back. That go back is actually right here in the function show error, and it's this form input right here using a JavaScript history.go -1 at the go back button. So in order for this to be fired, this function to be fired anyway, it's got to come in and bring in data first on this line. Then the next line is the problem. So right now, the problem on this one, I don't have validation for website. If I wanted to enter that, it's easily just enter it into here. Enter website. Save it. Now remember, I commented out the actual, if it's a valid URL. Now I just want to make sure that they put something in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the phone information back in. Leave the website out. I've added validation. Now it's going to catch it. Enter website, because there's nothing in here. And again, that's caught right here by adding in the second argument. Because if it doesn't have a second argument, it's not going to validate it. It's not going to validate that there's data in there. Okay? So that's it basically. Adding two fields to the index PHP on the validate.php, adding those two validate checks to where it validates if it's got data. Then down in line 38, adding your email and your first and last name. And then on the email.php, which is located in the PHP mail folder, you're going to modify it by adding your email address and the username, full email address, and password, and save it. And then test it and make sure it works. And I also send everyone an email on setting up a meeting the next couple Mondays. So if you could reply to that email, that would be great. And remember, this one you're not going to upload to your external site. You're going to go ahead and finish the homework, and then just submit the week 8 folder to me in the week 8 Dropbox is fine. So you'll just submit it down at the bottom. So instead of your URL, just put in here the attach the zip file for week 8. Okay. Also, note of help here, this error handling document, definitely well worth your time to read that on the how to handle other errors within PHP. Looking ahead a little bit, we've got week 9 coming up next week, which we're going to be going over string manipulation and input validation using strings. Practice lab will do on that is string validation, manipulating strings as they go in and go out, come in and go out. And then you do have in the Rocks book, chapter 5, a assignment. If you don't, if you want to modify this one or make it different, that's fine. On the homework assignment, as always, you can do that. Because on this one, you're validating phone number, SSN, gender that they've inputted data. Week 10, you're going to be no practice lab that week. For the homework, you're going to be doing a PHP CMS module and looking at different modules within CMS environment. And this one actually has I have you download a built-in CMS I built that allows you to put it in a PHP web server and set up automatically a CMS. So I have you download this beginning file and add some personalization modules, like, for instance, weather, forum, color modules. And then I give you all the examples for that. And so on this one, the user logs in, get their own personalization for the modules. Once they log in, personalization for possibly adding colors, adding weather modules, things of that nature. That's week 10. Week 11, you're going to do image galleries. Week 12, CMS, content management system, prepackaged ones. We'll look at those. And then starting in week 12, it'd probably be a good idea to begin looking at because you'll have from week 12, week 13, and 14, you'll be working on your personal site for presentation, which you'll be meeting at my house on week 15 on December 5th to do that. The needed information on your website is found in this final presentation folder, source code examples. And I believe on week 13, I actually have the required information for your final presentation you'd be thinking of. A database, tables with data, user interaction with data, an image page, a validation page, a message board of some type, and user personalization. And by the time we get to week 12, we've covered all of this information. So that concludes week 8 on input validation and email. If you have any questions, give me an email. Otherwise, you'll hear from me next week.